The Kristina's Finishing Touches bundle that comes out in April 2025 includes two products. I have the stamps and the stencils. Now, before I get too far into talking about this bundle, I do want to let you know that in May, we're going to be coming out with some dies. There will be dies, Kristina's Finishing Touches dies, with more of the little stitching elements and things like that. I did not include dies in this bundle at first because I wasn't sure if I needed them, and then realized, yeah, you do need some dies. So unfortunately, I couldn't fit them into this bundle for April, but we've got it in next month. So there will be an additional product coming out next month. But let's talk about the stencils and the stamps. So in the stencils, the stencils are 6x9, that really large size that we've all grown to love. And there are 3 stencils included. One has all just stitching lines, kind of really long stitching lines. And then the other 2 stencils fit with A7 and A2 cards. Open this up and take a look at these stencils so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. So this first one has all of those horizontal lines. You have a single dashed line or stitch line, a double stitch line. You have kind of a wonky little wavy one, and then one that has 4 of those lines all together. The next stencil in the set is this one. It's sized for an A7 card. You see this little etching on here? It might be a little bit hard to see in this lighting, but it says A7 card 5x7, and there's an etched line on the outer edge, so you can line up your card, and it's perfectly positioned for the dashed lines to be inked onto your card. So that's the second stencil, and the third one actually has 2 A2 cards on it. And one has the stitch line or dash line right at the edge, and then the other one has a little more inset. So it's a little bit smaller, but it'll help you get it completely centered onto your card just right. There we go. Now you can see the etching on the stencil. Okay, so those are the stencils. The stamp set, it's a 4x8 stamp set. So you have really, really long elements here. There's 3 stitching elements, and then there's a long solid line right here. There's a solid line for a bow down here. You'll recognize that same bow shape from my Gift Bows dies, one of my favorite die sets that came out last year. And then I have a bunch of little tiny elements. I realized that when I do cards, sometimes I just want a little tiny heart on it somewhere. And depending on the type of card and the style of design on it, I might want a really kind of stylized heart, or I might want one that's really skinny and, you know, more narrow, or one that's a little bit more chunky. Sometimes I need a different shaped heart. So there are some stars down here as well. We've got the more pointed stars. There's 3 sizes, and then there's one that's a little more rounded. I've also got some little circles and also some little pluses. I like to do these little plus signs so they look like little sparkles on things. So I thought that would be an interesting thing to include in this Finishing Touches stamp set. So let's go through all of the cards that I use this on, and you probably have seen all of them if you've seen any of my other cards for this release. I'm just going to point out where I used either the stencil or the stamps. Here's one that heavily uses the stamp set. I used all of those little elements stamped in different colors, and I also have that stitch line right across the center. For this card, I used one of the A2 card sections on the stencil, and when I put it on the card, I just omitted the sections where I already had my leaf stamp. So it's just along the outer edges and it's not running into any of the image. On this card, I used the solid line, and I did that in gold embossing, and then I did the little bow stamp right over the top, just for a little bow segment. This one's really fun because I actually used a texture paste or a grit paste. This is, I think it was white grit paste from Tim Holtz. You can kind of see there's a little bit of a raised edge on all those stitching lines. So basically what I did was I used the single dashed line on the stencil. I think I did the 2 running horizontally first, and I let that dry, and then I came back over and did this vertical one as well. And because the dash lines here were already applied and they were raised a little bit, I did have a little bit of a you know, like it wanted to blob out because the stencil wasn't completely touching the cardstock. So right at these sections right here, I did end up having to clean up that grit paste just a tiny bit. But because the grit paste isn't super liquidy, I was able to kind of scrape it off the cardstock without it being a problem. So there's a little tip for you if you're going to be doing kind of these intersecting dash lines on your card. For this one in particular, I use the dash line stamps, and I just put that little dash line right on the edge of this section of cardstock. This one's a little bit hard to see because it is very subtle, but I used the kind of wonky dash line stamp right here along the bottom just for an added element. This one, I did that same kind of like curved dash line, and I stamped it in white pigment ink and then put white embossing powder on top and then heat set that. So you have some really nice intricate like little lines going back and forth. And then here's one more where I used the stencils. This time I stenciled on that curved edge right here at the bottom in some juniper ink. Actually, that may have been rainforest ink. I think it was rainforest ink. So this is the Kristina's Finishing Touches bundle. Once again, there is one more product that will come out next month, the dies, that will kind of round out this collection of products. I've heard over the years that many of you would like a more simple or easier way to add dashed lines to your cards. So I hope this really helps you out.